Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of And Yet We Believe. My name is Roger Pimentel.
And my name is Anne.
And we are a married couple having honest conversations about the beautiful, messy middle of Latter-day Saint life. What are we talking about today?
Well, let's just start by saying Happy Pride Month.
There we go.
It's June, and we are excited to do an episode about being aspiring allies. We are not perfect at this. This is kind of new and vulnerable for us to step into this conversation in this way, but it is important to us to bring it up and include this in our episodes.
We're nervous about it.
Yep, we sure are. But we're going to just be vulnerable and try and be our authentic selves with this.
Let's jump in.
So we want to start by sharing a couple of stories of really how we've done poorly.
Yeah.
Because we are, like it says, we're aspiring allies. We are trying to do right in this area, but we know that we will make mistakes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, her dad is gay, and when the 2015 policy came out, she left the church. It was too much for her. She had been dealing with stuff for a long time and it was too hard. And she ended up leaving the church. And gosh, I already feel bad about how I just explained her, right? That it was too hard and she left. It sounds like she gave up. And that is not the case at all.
Yeah.
But we hadn't seen each other. We were mission companions and we hadn't seen each other for a long time. And we finally were getting back together and meeting up for breakfast one morning. And she told me all of this. And I was so not supportive. I kind of got after her and I was like, no, you need to stay and fight from within and, be an ally to people. And here I am trying to be an ally. And I was chastising her for choosing something that felt right for her.
Right.
And for standing up for her dad and for other people that she loved that are in the LGBTQ community, and I was making her feel bad for her choices. That is a conversation that I kick myself over all the time. And I have apologized to her. I reached out to her days after it happened because I felt so bad for how I handled it. And I still feel like I need to reach out and apologize over and over because I've learned so much since then about how to be an ally. And I mean, she's not even in the LGBTQ community, but so many people that she loves are. Yeah. And so I have learned how to be better, and I mess up and I will try again.
Yep.
What about you?
So my story is about somebody that I worked with a number of years back, and we worked together for a couple of years. Now, at work, I'm the kind of guy that wears my family and my home life on my sleeve. I'm always talking about what cool things my kids did or talking about cool things that Anne did. And like, I got pictures of Anne and the boys on my desk and these sorts of things. So I'm very open, probably annoyingly so about my home life. And this coworker of mine was not particularly forthcoming about his personal life, and that's fine. Do what you want to do. It's a workplace, whatever works for you. And after we had worked together for a couple of years, he made some passing comment about planning a wedding. And I was like, a wedding? Whose wedding? And he's like, mine. I'm like, what? Like, you're getting married? Who are you marrying? And he's like, my partner that I've been with for forever. And I didn't know that he was gay, didn't know that he had a partner, didn't know that he was getting married. Mm-hmm. And what I realized was he did not think I was safe. He knew I was LDS. I don't know if that was a factor in it. Yeah. But he had taken a good look at me and said, I'm not going to trust this person with that information because I don't think he is safe. And I've regretted that ever since, that I was the kind of person that it was not safe to be his full self around. Yeah. So I have that same regret that you have about that conversation, about this situation with my coworker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, we're not great at this. I mean, we're not professionals. And can you have professional allies? I don't know. That might be a job I'd be interested in, actually. We're not professionals, and we want to just, we want to talk about how you can be an ally, and still hold on to the church. And that's a really tricky place to be in for a lot of people. But there are so many parents that are in this position. There's church members that, have members in their ward that are gay or in the LGBTQ community. And we need to just be more inclusive and loving at church. And so we feel like this is a really important topic. I want to start by saying that we don't have to understand everything and have all of the answers to be able to be an ally. So many times when doctrine comes up about the family or gender or different things like that in the church, it gets really itchy and it's really hard and frustrating. And a lot of members will just either they'll shut down and they won't want to talk about it, or they will just parrot back things that they have heard, no matter how harming or damaging they are.
Yeah.
And there's a good quote from Elder Holland, and I recognize and I want to acknowledge that Elder Holland has some troubled history with this, right?
Sure.
Like, he's done so many good talks that have been supportive of the LGBTQ community, and he has had that one talk that was a completely different person.
So hurtful, yeah.
Yeah. So this quote from Elder Holland, where he says, "This is a divine work in process, so please don't hyperventilate if from time to time issues arise that need to be examined, understood, and resolved." So this is guidance that if this topic makes you itchy or uncomfortable, or you struggle with it in any way, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, and it's a process. We're not supposed to understand it all or know everything right now, and sitting in that uncertainty is sometimes where the growth will happen. So don't be afraid to just be uncomfortable for a minute.
And that spans really all topics in the gospel, but it seems particularly applicable in the LGBT area because we know that we don't know everything.
Right. The other thing is that you don't have to have a lot of proximity to LGBTQ people just to be able to love and to, be an ally. You don't have to have super close proximity. We don't have very close. We know a lot of people that are in that community. We don't have super close proximity to anybody that is LGBTQ. And so, that is one area where I think we could do better. We could go out and look for that community. We could be more involved.
Sure.
That's an area that I think that we can improve. But even though we don't have that super close proximity, we can still be loving and inclusive. Elder Ballard said one of the most important things that I read and have heard in all of my research about this. And this was a talk he gave at BYU. It was, questions were all turned in, and he was answering the few that he was able to. He said, "We need to listen to and understand what our LGBTQ brothers and sisters are feeling and experiencing. Certainly, we must do better than we have done in the past, so that all members feel they have a spiritual home where their brothers and sisters love them and where they have a place to worship and serve the Lord."
I love that.
It's so important that we need to listen and understand what they're saying, and we need to do better than we've done in the past.
We don't often hear that from church leaders talking collectively like that. We must do better. I love that language.
Yeah,
there's a real humility in that language, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes the trigger for people is when they do have a child that comes out as gay or a sibling or, they kind of suddenly have that proximity where they didn't before. And it's, as Anne was saying, we don't have a sibling or a child who's LGBT. But it occurs to me that you don't need to have that. You don't need to have a gay child or a gay sibling to be a safe person.
Right.
In this space. And it kind of reminds me, I remember being taught in primary, decide now that you're never going to smoke or drink alcohol or whatever. Decide that right now. And then, when the time comes, you'll have already decided. And I think we can decide to be a safe person for LGBTQ plus folks before we have that proximity, before it really becomes very present in our lives.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
I want to acknowledge also that there are church policies that we can't control. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about this, we're not talking about what to believe theologically. We're talking about how we treat people.
Right.
And so it's about what can we really control? Well, we can't control the church's policies, but we can control how we act and what we say in our own wards. And so that's really what we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of harm that has been done by our church and by Christianity and other religions in general. There's conversion therapy. There's the 2015 policy that was then reversed. There's even the proclamation that some people can see that there's wiggle room in the proclamation. Other people think it's too binding. There's a lot that's out there that has been harmful to people. And yeah, what we want to talk about is what is right in front of us right now, how we love, how we move forward. I think it's really important as we get out of the gate with this, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, our allyship is a practice. It's not theology, right? Allyship is a practice where we're putting theology to the test where we are saying, do we actually love our neighbor? Do we love people?
I like that.
I often hear when people are talking about LGBTQ people or issues or whatever in the church, and they say, well, yes, we want to love our neighbor, but we can't let the standards get ruined, or we can't let these people get in the way of what God teaches. And I'm like, hold up. That is not our job. Our job is not to judge and tell them what is right or wrong, but our job is to love. That's our commandment.
Yep. And that's the hardest one. It's so much easier if it has a limit on it.
Yeah.
Well, I only need to love them up to this point, and then then I can stop.
I can hate them.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That's so much easier, even though, yes, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I've heard recently in kind of the anti-racism circles that I follow online, I heard somebody talking about how he was saying we have to be ready to work with imperfect allies. And somebody responded and said, you mean you're going to work with bigots? And he's like, hold on. Bigots are not allies. They're not aspiring allies. They're not doing the work of allyship. That is not what it means to work with imperfect allies. An imperfect ally is somebody that knows that they will mess up, but they will apologize. They will make right what was wrong. They're trying. And I listened to a episode with Charlie Bird and Ben Shalati in their All Out in the Open podcast. Yeah. And it was an older episode from 2020. It's so good. It's with allyship, and we can put a link to that in the comments. But Charlie Bird says, you are going to mess up, and it's better to say something. As you associate with different LGBTQ people, you will be able to learn more and grow. We're kind of all on a journey, a process together. And if you're too afraid to start the process, then you will never have the opportunity to grow. I think that's really important that we try. We are going to mess up, especially when you've got somebody that has changed their pronouns and you've known them for a really long time. You will trip up. You're going to mess up.
Yep.
But if you can apologize and get back on track, they're going to feel that genuine love and concern that you're trying, right? They're going to feel that and hopefully be grateful that you're trying.
We talked about this before starting this episode. I said, Anne, I am probably going to say something wrong. And she said, yeah, that's how this works, and that's how we kind of move forward with that.
Yeah.
One thing that shows up is the difference between tolerance and inclusion. With tolerance being like an extremely low bar,
right?
Like, tolerating somebody existing, which in the LGBTQ space is a real concern. In some cases, whereas inclusion means actively making space for someone, and of course that's what we want to be doing. I think even that term tolerance is a bad word in LDS circles a lot of times.
Yeah,
because people are like, oh, so you're gonna tolerate sin or whatever. and I kind of hate that.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the church's teachings now is that being in the LGBTQ community is not a sin, right?
Right.
And so, like, saying you're going to tolerate sin by somebody that's wanting to be inclusive or tolerant of an LGBTQ person,
Right.
even that phrase has so many layers of damage
Yep.
built into it.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. I think if you lack proximity, or even if you have proximity and you're still unclear on how to do things, the most important thing is to ask questions. Get curious.
Ooh, I love that.
You can first start by examining your assumptions. You can ask, what have I assumed about LGBTQ people that I've never actually examined? I've never actually figured out what they're meaning, or what this means to them, or, whatever. We need to ask so many questions and be willing to learn and to be surprised about things, because there are things that I've learned growing up, or that I assumed or saw stereotypes on TV or whatever it is, that are so far from the truth, or maybe are just that one experience that was portrayed on a TV show or something, and it's not a lived experience of the majority of the community or something like that. We just need to be able to break down these assumptions that we have, and figure stuff out a little better.
Yeah.
And just one quick mention also is allyship is really important all the time, whether there are people in the LGBTQ community in the room with you or not. We have a good comment here that said, I had to speak up today, and essentially tell somebody that her transphobic comment was not okay. Couldn't let that comment go by without saying something. I don't know if there were transphobic or trans people in the room,
Right.
but it doesn't matter, because like, this is so wonderful to speak up regardless of who is in the room, but we have to shut down harmful and wrong comments when they happen, regardless of who's in the room.
Yep. Whether that's at church or not.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have an example of that, and we're talking about small things that mean a lot. Small comments, little things here or there that are really, really impactful. And I've heard this come up in Elders Quorum not that long ago.
Yeah.
Where pronouns and even LGBT, the entire concept is treated a little bit like a joke. Or like some complicated thing, like oh, I can't remember the letters LGBT. I can't.
Yeah, Q X Y Z. I always hear that added onto it.
Yeah,
it's like, come on.
Like, oh yeah, I can't remember all the letters,
Yeah.
or some like this kind of weird, comment about pronouns or whatever. And frankly, it's so embarrassing to sit in Elders Quorum and have somebody be that ignorant. And I'm not in that community. I'm just, kind of looking in from the outside, and I'm like, boy, you are embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, it really doesn't take a lot to learn something, right?
Take like 1 second
Yeah.
to learn these things. I think it comes down to, like, if you were hurting people by accident, would you want to know? Of behavior, that kind of response or comment makes me think, like, no, I'm not sure that person wants to know.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they're doing it on purpose, and I'm being super judgy right now. So I'm going to back off of that. But, noticing the language that we use, especially in lessons or talks, or when we're like the voice of authority, even saying something like same-sex attraction versus gay signals very different things about what we're talking about.
And I think for a long time there was a fear to say the word gay.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's banned or was trying to be banned in Florida. You couldn't even say the word gay. But when I was growing up, gay was only used as a derogatory thing.
Yes.
Right? And so, but now language has changed and shifted where people will say I'm gay, and that's totally fine. That's what they feel comfortable with. And some people do feel comfortable with same-sex attraction. I feel that is kind of the churchy way to talk about this in the proper ways, which I think is weird, but if people want to say it that way and that's how they identify, then that's fine. And we need to learn and be okay to ask somebody, how do you want me to refer to you? Or, asking for their pronouns. What pronouns do you prefer? That is such an easy, simple little thing to show that you are respectful, that you just care about their human decency, their humanity.
Right.
Like, it's such a small thing. But we get so twisted about that and so up in arms about people that want to have a different pronoun, and it just doesn't matter.
I am so embarrassed by things that I said when I was younger, when I was in high school. And it was less common to be out then. But there were a number of people that were in my friend circles in high school that came out later as gay or otherwise LGBT, and they heard me say all these things that were not great. I'm not even gonna say use your imagination. Please do not use your imagination. And now I just get to sit with that. I get to learn from that, and that's really the positive thing, I guess.
Well, it always comes back to Maya Angelou with her, if you know better, you do better.
Right.
And we didn't know better back then, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, but we do now, and so we can do better now.
I was not a safe person for that at the time. And I grabbed this great quote from Blair Ostler, who's a strong voice in kind of queer LDS theology, saying, through our action and inaction, we are sending a clear message to queer Latter-day Saints, you don't belong here. And I love how she highlights both action and inaction.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the comment that we got in the chat about speaking up about somebody's transphobic comment. Our inaction speaks volumes there if in the cases that we don't speak up.
Yeah. We had a funny, well, it's funny now, experience in Sunday school one time where, and we may have shared this on the podcast before, but somebody in the room made a really inappropriate comment about the LGBTQ community. And we were sitting together next to our friends, husband and wife couple that think similarly to us. And we just took the rest of the lesson basically and filibustered.
Just talked the rest of the time so that no more hurtful comments could be made.
Yeah, we just passed the mic from one person to the next and started over. Something had to be said. And again, I don't want to share that as a yay, look at what we did.
Right.
But it is important to speak up and to say something when you hear something is wrong. That's one of the best ways to be an ally.
Right.
To not let things go unspoken or to be laughed off or whatever. It's going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Now, what about especially if you're the one teaching the lesson, or it's your class or something like that?
Yeah, if you are teaching, I think it's really important to, as you're preparing or even just as you're talking, ask yourself, does the way I frame families, marriage, and gender leave room for everyone in this room? And you may not know who you have in your room, right?
I think by the law of large numbers, you will have at least one LGBTQ person in the room. They may not be out. You may not know. But if you have a class of X number of people, you probably do. Again, not that it matters. You should be safe regardless. Right. But you probably do. Right.
That's something that I'm learning with the way that I talk about God. For a long time, most of my life, it has only been He, right? God is the Father. Then I learned about Heavenly Mother, and so I changed to either say he and she or to say they. And now I'm almost leaning a little more toward just talking to God as they, as this entity of God, to say God instead of he or she or they, just to keep saying God. It kind of depends on how I'm talking, what I'm talking about, but I think that it is more inclusive to just have God be God and not prescribe gender to who God is all the time. I think even if you're making a comment, you should also be asking yourself, is my comment going to be making space for people in the room?
Yeah. Perfect.
It's not just for the people that are teaching. At the same talk that Elder Ballard gave at BYU, he was talking about people who have left the church, but I think this comment applies. And I
Okay.
excuse me. If somebody is to come out to you, or you find out, through a friend or, whatever it is, and you have interactions with a person, or a family member of a person that is in the LGBTQ community, I think the most important thing that we can say is always lead with love. Sure. We do not need to lead with theology and tell them where they're wrong or how they're wrong.
Right.
So Elder Ballard in that speech, he said, please do not preach to them. Your family members or friends already know the church's teachings. They don't need another lecture. What they need, what we all need, is love and understanding, not judging. That is one of the most beautiful things as well. Like, both of these comments from this talk that he gave are so just right on the money.
Elder Ballard came out swinging.
He sure did.
That's awesome.
And he's probably one that also has left some damage in his wake, right?
Yep.
People are so complex, right?
Yeah,
Nobody
right.
is one thing, but man, these two comments are really, really good.
It comes up so often where people want to say something like, hey, I love you, but I don't support your lifestyle. And like, there has to be this like conditional piece on it.
Yeah.
This like extra clause on it. And like, what are you trying to accomplish with that? It feels like it's making it about yourself. It feels like it's like, I'm raising myself above you. I'm going to assert my own righteousness. Mm-hmm. Because clearly I'm sinless or perfect or whatever. We have this idea sometimes in the church that loving somebody means being a real jerk to them when we think they're wrong. Mm-hmm. And I know where it comes from. It comes from D&C 121. It comes from this reproving betimes with sharpness. The verse. We've all heard that, which is like one verse, like swimming in the sea of Jesus telling us to love each other. Yeah. But we go, oh no, this is good. I get to scold people that think differently than me, and when I think I'm right and they're wrong. And man, can we just leave that aside? I don't think there's really any scenario where you need to be going to like another ward member and reprimanding them for something. I just don't think that situation exists. I don't think we should ever be doing that. Yeah.
Yes, never. Because again, our call is to love.
Right? Full stop. It ends right there. That's it.
Yeah. That's the highest commandments. And loving God, I don't think that loving God means tell everybody my rules. I don't think that's what it means to love God.
Yeah. People think those are in tension sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, well, I need to love God and love my neighbor. Those are the two great commandments. So I need to love my neighbor up to a certain point, at which point I'm going to go back and defend God. I don't think God needs it.
Nope. Not at all.
I think God's going to take care of that. And love God does not in any case mean be rude to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, be hateful.
Yeah.
It's important also to do our own work. In this episode that I listened to with Charlie and Ben, Charlie was talking about the fatigue that marginalized people get sometimes, where often they're the only person of that marginalization in the room. They're the only gay person. They're the only Black person, even the only woman in the room sometimes. And when they are the one that is turned to all the time to debunk myths or to educate on something, it is exhausting. And it's really not fair of those of us who are not marginalized in that way to put all of that responsibility on them.
Yeah.
When we have the internet right in front of us, right? We can Google anything. We can figure out anything. There are books to read, there are podcasts, and we'll list off some of these that have been helpful for us at the end of the episode. But it's just not okay to always go out and do that. And Charlie talked about how this is a burden for him. that he is tired and it's hard for him to always have to answer these questions. And so he said, when there is an ally in the room that will speak up, they've done their own work, they've figured things out, they've had conversations, they know Charlie, they know what he's experiencing or whatever, or any other person in the community. But when that ally speaks up to Charlie, that is a example of the ally living their baptismal covenants to lighten the load, to bear the burdens of Charlie, of other people, because they are shouldering some of that weight and responsibility to debunk myths or to say things, and it doesn't all fall to Charlie. So what a beautiful example of a way that we can actually live our covenants that we've made, and help out in this way.
This is an area I want to do better in, is educating myself. I know he has a book.
Yeah, both Charlie and Ben have books out.
Yeah, which is probably a really great, like, really accessible place to start.
Yeah.
I haven't read either of them, and that's maybe that's where I'll start on that.
Yeah, we have work to do.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. I think that we need to point out that it is okay to support people in the LGBTQ community and be a temple recommend holding member, or to just be a believing member. That does not mean that the person in the LGBTQ community is not a believing member.
Right.
I'm just saying it's okay to hold both things, and there is a tension. But it's okay to hold that.
A tension, but not a conflict.
Right. There was a interview in 2015 with Elder Christofferson, and he spoke to this beautifully. The interviewer said, "Would supporting gay marriage threaten someone's membership in the church if they went on Facebook or Twitter and actively activated it?" Advocated it, sorry. And Elder Christofferson said, "No, that's not an organized effort to attack our effort or attack our functioning as a church." And the interviewer said, "So members can hold these beliefs even though they are different from what you preach from the pulpit?" And Elder Christofferson said, "Yes." So we can support LGBTQ people. In the episode with Ben and Charlie and Allie Isom, they asked Allie, "What would you say if a member wants to go to a wedding of an LGBTQ couple?" And she said, "Go. Absolutely go."
Right.
Because Jesus said that you are the light of the world, and if we want that light to be shared everywhere, why would we withhold it from other people?
Yeah.
Right? If those people think that their marriage is divine and that it's a wonderful union and a great thing, we can support that and bring God into it as much as they want to, right? Like, we don't need to go and preach. I'm not saying go and preach when you're at this wedding, but we can go and be loving people. We can love our siblings in God, and that is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate, I mean, sometimes people wonder about that one question in the Temple Recommend interview about, do you agree with groups that are teaching contrary to the church? I don't remember the exact wording. And Elder Christofferson is saying that LGBT advocacy is not that.
Right.
Because he's saying if you're part of an organized effort to attack the church, then yes, that is that.
Yeah.
But holding your own beliefs and even advocating, that does not disqualify you in that Temple Recommend question. He's very clear about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sad truth of it is that when we do advocate and stand up and we try to be an ally, sometimes that will cost us things.
Yeah.
It in any type of allyship, you have to be willing to lose some social capital if you're going to be a true ally. And that is something that I've had to learn the hard way. I have brought up so many things and been put in the corner because of it. And been chastised because of it. And I am not going to stop.
Yep.
Because to me, it's okay to lose some of that. I'm willing to lose that to make sure that I am standing up for what I believe in and what I think is right.
If it doesn't cost you something, I'm not sure how much of an ally you are.
Right. exactly. I had an experience with this a couple of years ago. It was June, a fast Sunday, and I had the prompting, like, the minute I walked into church, you need to get up and say Happy Pride Month. And I was like, funny. That's interesting. But then a couple of people before me, the man that got up, he said, if you ever feel like he was talking about testimony meeting in general. He said, if you ever feel an inspiration to say something, you got to get up and say it. Just do it, because it needs to be heard. Somebody in the room needs to hear it. And I was like, gosh dang it, here we go. So I got up and I said Happy Pride Month, and
over the pulpit.
Yeah. And I said, some of you may be a little uncomfortable with that, and frankly, I'm okay with it. And I kind of was cheeky and like smiling, and I said it's okay to be uncomfortable, and I just kind of talked about it for a few minutes. I had so many people thank me afterward, and
like a dozen plus.
Yeah.
At least.
We walked home from church that day and people were pulling over and yelling out their window, thank you for your testimony. It made an impact. Unfortunately, I was called into the bishop's office later. Was it that day? I think it was.
Might have been.
And got called out for it. Yeah. And I said, well, I would do it again.
I'm not sure you said those exact words, but I
pretty much did.
That was more or less it, yeah.
Yeah, and he shared his thoughts, and I said, well, this is why I did it, and this is the impact it had, and I know that it was important to do, and it was 100% fine to do it. And I did not back down from that, and I maybe have lost any ability while this bishop is in to have any sort of calling of meaning, which is fine. I'm okay with that.
That turned out to be the cost.
Yeah. And I know for a few people who are in the LGBTQ community in our ward, it meant the world to them and to their families.
Yep.
And I would never apologize for being more inclusive and loving for that family, for those families and those people.
Yep.
So
this seems like a good opportunity to say, first of all, to our friends in the LGBTQ community, I want to apologize for anything that we have said wrong in this episode, as we're trying as imperfect, aspiring allies. We're not getting it all right, but hopefully we're reaching other people like ourselves who are kind of in this in between space a little bit. So I do want to say to our LGBT friends, we're glad you're here. We don't think you're just a podcast topic or a problem to be discussed or solved, and we hope that this is one little small place where you can feel seen.
Yeah. Yeah, we really, our goal in all of this whole podcast is to make space at church. Yeah. And it's important to us that people feel safe. And we know, like you said, we know we're not always going to be perfect at it, but we are trying. And if we can influence anybody to be a little more curious and inclusive and loving in the way that they talk at church or interact with people, then I think that that's a good step forward. And it's not the end. This won't be the end, Right. We said all along we have ways to improve, and we're going to commit to do that.
Yeah. And I want to call out specifically, I don't want to entirely flatten LGBT and not mention the T. Because right now, children of God who are trans are having their existence debated in public forums, and wherever you stand, politically or in regards to religion, that has to be a horrible experience.
Yeah.
And so my hat is off to the bravery of these folks. And again, we're glad you're here.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that we would bring up a few things that have been really meaningful and helpful for us. Lift and Love on Instagram, Papa Osler with the Listen, Learn, and Love podcast. Mama Dragons is a really good organization. You can follow people like Charlie Bird or the people behind the Fourth Option. I want to give the challenge to maybe find somebody this week that you can listen to or learn from in some way. Listen to a podcast, listen to a book on, audio, or read the book or whatever, follow a new account, do something to just broaden your circle of who you're learning from.
Yeah.
I will do that as well.
I will too. And just a reminder, like we said earlier, you don't have to have that proximity to start. You don't have to have a child come out as gay to start. Start with wherever you're at and be safe before someone needs that from you.
Yeah.
And that self-education is a great way to start.
Yeah. I want to end with 2 quotes that are just, they're just good.
Okay.
Elder Cook, Quentin L. Cook, he said, as a church, nobody should be more loving and compassionate. Let us be at the forefront in terms of expressing love, compassion, and outreach. Let's not have families exclude or be disrespectful of those who choose a different lifestyle as a result of their feelings about their own gender. We need to be at the forefront of this, and we are not as a church. We are failing a lot, and we have a lot of room for improvement. So let's be at the forefront. And then Elder Ronald A. Rasband, he said, the LGBTQ, he's specifically talking about youth in this, but LGBTQ people need to be encircled in the arms of their Savior and know they are loved. So often the Lord calls on us. He expects us to be his welcoming, loving arms. That is how we can be aspiring allies. That's how we lean into our baptismal covenants, and we are the Savior's arms. We are God's arms as we reach out and love and include people who are marginalized and pushed to the side. We can do it.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
As usual, if you want to find us online, on Instagram, I'm at From the Overflow.
And I'm at The Vision Beautiful.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.